Hey, what's going on? Let's see if you can see me. Mr. Robinson here. I'm back. You're welcome. Look, this week, going into week two of virtual learning again, online learning. Um, so this year, in case you didn't know, my goal is to be not only teacher of the year, but virtual teacher of the year. So let's make it happen. Last week, if you remember, we went over the different duties and responsibilities of citizens. All right, we looked kind of at immigration. How do you become a citizen through the naturalization process? Uh, a lot of people become citizen through birth, right? If you're born in the United States, which most of us, that's how we got our citizenship because we were born here. At least that's how I got mine. I was born not far from here at Moore Regional Hospital. All right. So that's boom. I was an American citizen just like that, just like as soon as I was born. But today, this week, we're going to look at different types of systems of government. All right. So the United States, we should probably know this, or you guys should know it. I know it. The United States is a democracy, but a particular kind of democracy, all right, called a representative democracy. There are different types of democracies, which I'll talk about here in a second, but the United States is a representative democracy. So I'm going to go look at the systems of government here. There's going to be an assignment you guys have to do on Canvas to go along with it. And then following that, that's going to be due tomorrow. Following that, I'm probably going to be due, I'll post it tomorrow, but it's going to be due Wednesday, is there's going to be a quiz that includes this, the different duties of citizens, right? Obeying laws, paying taxes, registering for the draft, serving jury duty, all that. And then the process of becoming a citizen through naturalization. So I'm going to go through this right here, systems of government. So there's just the list. Remember the PowerPoint, I put it on Canvas so you can view it that way as well. These are the different types we're going to look at. I'll explain each one. So today, most countries operate in some form of democracy. So there's just an example so you can see. Now, what is important that we're going to study later in the course about America is one of the first countries in the world to have a democracy. Not only that, our country, we started with a democracy. All right. A lot of these other countries they didn't start that way, but they found it. So a monarchy. A monarchy is what you think of when a king or queen rules. All right. Power belongs to a ruling family. They're not always called a king or queen. Some are in Russia. There were the czars and czarinas. All right. Power obtained by birthright. You were born into that. You were born a leader. All right. So it's basically because my father was the king. Now I'm his son, so I'm going to be the king. All right. It's not through your accomplishments or through the things you earn to get there by birthright. It's also, in many cases, a divine right to rule. That's where they get their power. They say that, but God has anointed me to rule over you all. And people believe this, all right? And it still goes on in some countries, believe it or not. God has given this family the right to rule. All right. So monarchs are called king, queen, emperor, empress, czar, czarina, and on down the line. Then you have two types, as it says on there. So that is monarchy. We're going to look at the different types of monarchy. Now, don't think, well, put it like this: there have been in America's case a couple of father-son combinations to serve as president. Does anybody know? I know you're not going to answer me, or at least I can't hear you answer me because there's no one in the classroom. So I'll just go over them. So you have the second president of the United States, John Adams, his son, the sixth president, John Quincy Adams, That was the first father-son combination to serve. Okay. Recently, one that was president during your lifetime, and both were presidents during my lifetime. Number 41, George Bush Sr. was president, and then his son, 43, George Bush Jr., was also president. Okay, there are other instances with families serving as president as well. All right, so the ninth president, William Henry Harrison, also the shortest term as president. His grandson, the 23rd president, Benjamin Harrison, served. All right, then you have the 26th president, Teddy Roosevelt, was distant cousins with the 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So there are some instances in America with families ruling, but not like this, not where God says we're going to rule because God says we are. Let's move on. Absolute monarchy, total power. That's just what you need to know. Do not question an absolute monarch. All right. Those guys rule with total power. Now, limited monarch, this is kind of where, when we think of England today, all right, so you have a queen in England, you have the Prince William, Prince Harry, all right, and then their father is Prince Charles. But in England, it's more of it's a limited monarchy, like a constitutional monarchy. They don't have full power. Their power is very, very limited in England, in particular, but in other cases too. Not that you have a king or queen, but you also have a government body that rules as well. That's a limited monarchy. All right, a democracy is what we have in America, or a type of democracy. The two types we'll look at are representative democracy and direct democracy. In a democracy, the power originates with the people. Okay, so power comes from the people. Now, in a representative democracy, well, I'm going to get to that in a second. But it's usually peaceful. A typical characteristic of a democracy is a peaceful transition of power. All right. Most of the time, a democracy tends to be a peaceful structure of government. So we're going to look at the two types. Representative democracy, where the people elect a representative who then, well, for lack of a better term, represents them. Okay. So the person we elect will make our decisions for us, or it'll make our decisions in a way that represents us, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, for instance, in North Carolina, we have two senators who are our representatives who are supposed to portray our feelings on issues. All right, if most North Carolinians want to lower taxes, and then that representative votes to raise taxes, all right, then he's not properly representing the feeling of the voters in North Carolina. So the United States has a representative democracy. Everyone has a voice, but that voice is expressed through the representative which we duly elect. Okay, so now sometimes the disadvantage is, like I said, that representative may not always properly portray the feelings or sentiment of his electors. A direct democracy is where the people vote on all matters. So, for instance, what's a big issue today? Say students are always concerned about this: the legalization of marijuana. So, for instance, in a direct democracy, everyone would vote on this issue. Now, you can imagine how long that would take to get this issue resolved. That's why we have a representative democracy, to get laws passed quicker. All right, because if we took a direct vote on every issue, well, it would take a very long time to get laws and things passed. As it is, it already takes a long time with Congress to get things done, but it would take forever to get things done if we operate under a direct democracy. So that's why it works best in small groups or corporations. So if you have a small number of people, then okay, a direct democracy may work. Yeah, that's. I'll tell you like this. One time we were on a patrol in when I was in the Marine Corps, and I was the leader of the patrol. All right, but I said, all right, guys, we can do. I have a couple options. So we can do it like this, and this one time we'll have a direct democratic vote. Right. Most of the time I'm going to make the decisions, but this time I allowed it to go up through a direct democratic vote because there was only a small. There was about 15 people on the patrol, so it worked okay in that situation. Works best in small groups. Now, a totalitarian government, all right, where the rulers have total, complete power. There are no um, rights that the people have unless the ruler gives it to them or okays it for them. Usually taken by force, all right. So this is where you kind of get like with dictatorships as well. That's what a lot of students think of. Now you have three totalitarian rulers right there. Um, Joseph Stalin, okay, Adolf Hitler, and then Fidel Castro. These are totalitarian rulers, meaning they are the law begins and ends with them. They're the ones who make enforce the law, make enforce the government on the people, and they have unchecked control. Some monarchies, absolute monarchies, also operate under a totalitarian system of government. So some of these types of government run into each other. All right, a dictatorship is a form of totalitarianism. All right, Saddam Hussein there. There's North Korea, which operates under that. It's usually taken by force. So again, just like a totalitarian government, and a lot of times they also have control of the military. That's where they get their force and strength through the military. All right. Because if you control the military, then you control police action of the state. Again, the transition of power is usually not very peaceful in these types of government. An oligarchy would be a government that is ruled by a group of people, typically a few people, not a lot, but you have a ruling class or a wealthy royal ruling class. Okay, so you don't have one person who has complete control. You don't have a democratic type of government. You have a government where there's a select few that rule and have control. All right, that it would be an oligarchy. So ancient Rome at one point had an oligarchy. When, if you remember from world history, with it was with Mark Antony had control, Augustus Caesar, and then who was the third one? Pompey. All right, there were three of them that had control simultaneously. Totalitarianism, all right, that's where I went over that. Now, a theocracy is where a religious figure also rules. This is typically was very common in biblical times. Particularly, you look back at the Old Testament, that book. You look back at it. That's where theocracy was involved. A person who was high up in a religious, um, the, high up on the religious. Well, I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. Anyways, a person who ruled religiously also ruled the state. Okay, so this still happens today in the Vatican City, all right, which is a Catholic city in Italy or near Italy, and where the Pope rules the government, but also he's ruling the church there. All right, the laws are traditionally based on holy books. Okay, it's most common in the Middle East, particularly Iran, where you have ayatollahs that rule there. They are the the government's law and the government's leader, but also the religious leader of the state. And so that is the end of this with the governments. Now, there's assignment on Canvas. I'll let you take the assignment 3 times, actually 2 times. I think it's set for 2 times because it's really pretty simple. There are 10 questions. Now, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to post a quiz, which, well, we'll have some questions about this. It's probably not going to be that long, maybe 12, 13 questions. We'll have some of these questions as well as some of the stuff you learned last week about the duties and rights of citizens of the United States. So please email me if you have any questions. Also, another thing I want to cover is I'm not doing Google Meets for instruction for your class, but every Wednesday, now I'm pointing in the camera, so right there, every Wednesday from 10 to 12 are my office hours, meaning I will hold a Google Meet every Wednesday from 10 to 12. So if you have any questions, you can log on to the Google Meet. Now to find it, you need to go to the pages in the Canvas course, look at class calendar, and every Wednesday you'll have the link on there for the Google Meet. So I'll put the link. I'll send the link out in the email I send with this video as well. All right. So if you have any questions, again, just email me.